Hello friends, this is Growl. Add-ons and UI setup are some of the most common questions that I get on my stream and in my comments. Although I like to keep my content mostly gameplay focused, your UI is a big part of how you play your game after all. In this video, I'm going to go over most of the important add-ons that I use for healing and give you some info as to how to set them up for yourself and go over most of the super common questions that I get. The way that you set up your UI comes down to personal preference in the end, though. I'm not telling you to just copy mine or that mine is right. I just want to have a reference tool for people that want to learn and maybe duplicate some of the stuff that I have. If you came here to look for one specific thing from my UI, I would check the video timeline. I'll try and put timestamps down and lots of links in the description. So, the first add-on I want to talk about is a boss mods add-on. You can use bigwigs or DBM. I use DBM because I use bigwigs because it's a little less obnoxious out of the box. So you can see here it does two things. One, it puts a notification on your screen when things are happening. And number two, it puts timers when things are about to happen. I think this is important for everyone, but especially for a healer. You want to know when stuff's going on, and very often when you're doing difficult mythic encounters or you're pulling lots of different mobs, it can be really hard to know what's happening. So this is an add-on that I recommend that probably everyone should have, either bigwigs or DBM. The next add-on that I want to talk about is Weakauras. There's so many things that Weakauras can do. For example, you saw the Convoke tracker on my top right. You see my UI in the middle. You see a combat timer here. Lots of stuff going on from Weakauras. So I have a video on my channel already explaining what Weakauras are and how to use them. So I'm not going to go into super detail about Weakauras, but what I will do is show you how to import some of the stuff that I have. So next I want to show you my Wago page. This is something that you should be familiar with if you want to find stuff from my UI. Almost everything that I use on stream, whether it's Weakauras, party frame profiles, whatever, is going to be uploaded here. And so if you have a link that's not working or you're looking for something, you're not sure what it is, I would look here first. I try and name things well and use pictures when possible to help you find things easier. So I'm going to show you guys how to import my UI pack real quick. It's super easy as long as you have Weakauras installed. So here's my UI. I will copy the string. Here I have a fresh game. Here's a young druid. Actually, let's change to resto spec real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the UI or open up the Weakauras and simply just import it and paste it in. So /WA to open this menu. You go to import and we're just going to paste in this big text box. It's going to put a bunch of things in here. It's called UI Growl Reach Resto Druid, and bam, you're good to go. There are some things that are missing from this Weakaura, like Covenant abilities. I assume that you're going to have a Covenant ability Weakaura for every class, so I don't want to double up on ones that you already have. Let's say you're playing healers and alt. If you're looking for the ones that I use, again, you'll find them on the Wago page. There's also a lot of other handy Weakauras that I use. One really common one is this circle around my mouse. This puts a circle around your mouse tracking your global cooldown, making it easier to keep track of your mouse and your global cooldown at the same time. This is a Weakaura again. It's called like GCD mouse circle. I'll leave a link to that in the description and you can find it on my Wago page. There are lots and lots of things you can do with Weakauras. Anytime that you see something on my stream that's not mentioned or you're not sure what it is, it's probably a Weakaura and you want to check that out. So the last thing I want to talk about is my party frames. You can't see it very well here, but you'll notice that I have custom party frames. I use an add-on called Voodoo. You can use anything for that. You can use Grid 2 is really common. Elvui is really common. I don't use Voodoo for any specific reason. It was just the first thing that I heard of that I set up, and it's worked for me ever since. I will show you how to copy my Voodoo profile here on my fresh game as well. So we're going to go back to my Wago page here. I'm going to go to my name, and we're going to look for my frame. So here we see Resto Druid Dungeon Party Frames. And again, we're going to click copy. We're not done yet, so don't close this page. So now this is what your Voodoo will probably look like when you fresh install. I'm going to go /VD space OPT to open the options. And we're going to go to Tools. And here we see we have no profiles. So in order to get one in there, we're going to import. We're going to paste this string, and it's going to lag. Voodoo's UI is very intimidating. It's very old, and it has tons and tons of options. If you're just using Voodoo for the first time, I'd really recommend checking out a full tutorial. This is just a quick overview to help answer some of the questions that I get. All right, so it's going to ask you if you want to import. It may give me some other errors here because this is like a weird game file. Okay, so now you imported and it doesn't work. You're like, what the heck? You need to go to the drop down and actually select it, and you need to select which party sizes it loads on. So I do 1 through 5, and now we'll go apply. Bam, now we're good. Save it. Sure, overwrite, whatever. You probably won't get that error. Bam, we're here. And now our party frame add-on works. So there's two things that you need to do. First, we're going to go back into the Voodoo options. We're going to go spells and keybinds here. Here is where we set all of our mouse overs. You don't need to make mouse over macros in Voodoo. You can do it in here. So just go into keys local, add, and you can add, let's say you want to put regrowth on 1. Bam. And now you have, now when I press 1, it puts regrowth. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing you need to do is we need to import more of what are called bouquets. These are ways that you can customize how things are displayed on your frame. You don't need these, but if you want your frames to look like mine, you'll need to copy them. So there's 4 different ones that I use on my Druid. All of my Voodoo profiles have at least 2 because I want to show defensives here. So we're going to open up all these individually. We're going to go to general bouquets, and then we're going to go to import and copy all of these in. These need to show, if you import my profile, you're going to get errors because the profile is going to look for these and they're not there. So make sure after you do this, you import. So we'll copy, import, getting all these in. And once you have them in for one profile, you'll be able to use them for the other. Bam. Okay. So now we have all of our bouquets set up. Now we can go to panels, hot icons, and here is where it shows everything that's on your party frame. I have spells listed by spell ID. That way it can work with multiple languages as much as possible. But if it's not working for you, you can simply just type in rejuvenation and it will show rejuve when you see there's that first slot there. But sometimes it doesn't load these, or because it errored out, it won't show them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to just use these drop downs real quick. This is how my Druids is set up. So the very first one is HOTS 1, HOTS 2, tank defensives and personal defensives, and bam, we're good to go. I don't know why sometimes these show up and sometimes don't. It might be better maybe to import the bouquets first, but either way, that's how you do this. Now, when I press Bark Skin, it will show up there on my frame. The last thing I want to point out about my frames is you'll see that there are cooldowns on the left side of them as well. This is actually an add-on called Omni CD. So this is really easy to set up. You can use Weakauras for this as well. So all you need to do is install the add-on /Omni CD and go to party spells, and you just go through the list and select anything that you want to see. I highly recommend, especially if you're newer, to actually go through this list and pick the things that you want yourself. This isn't because for any reason other than it's so you can learn what all the spells do and what the icons do. Especially for tank stuff, it's so important. What does Vamp Blood do? What is Purgatory? What is Icebound Fortitude? A lot of people are like, oh, I can't heal these tanks, but then you don't know what the abilities do. Like, well, if you just spent the time to just read through the important abilities, then it will help you. Also, keep in mind that there are lots of PvP talents in here, so you have to be careful that not all of them will be actual things. So that covers the big ones that I get lots of questions about. I'll go over some small ones too. So my details, I have 3 different meters set up here. I don't look at it too much, but people like it on stream, so I have all 3 of them. Current damage, overall damage of the whole dungeon, and current healing. Another thing that I use my details for is actually this right here. This is called the Detail Streamer plugin. If you're wondering how it's showing my recent spells cast over my waffle, this is part of details. So if you go in details or /details options, the command, then you can go into plugins, and then this is where you can add plugins. So I added, I think it's just called Streamer plugin here, but there's also some other stuff that you can use in details that it has some other nice features. I don't use much of it. I just use the meters and this right here so people can see my spells cast. The next thing I use is my nameplates. So I use an add-on called KUI nameplates. In a lot of my videos, you'll find Plater. That's because Plater was available on beta when KUI was not, and so I was using Plater in all my beta footage, but I don't really have a strong preference. Plater and KUI are both fine. The reason I use KUI is because it's really nice out of the box. When I say nameplate specifically, I guess I should explain, it means the names above the tops of characters. So one thing you'll notice in town is all the nameplates are super pretty. You can see their colors, you can see it as a nice font. You cannot do this in dungeons and raid instances. This is because there are rules about modifying friendly nameplates to trivialize mechanics. So even though you see this and my nameplate's looking like this, you can't do this in dungeons. If you go to my let's go back to my dungeon footage, for example, you'll see my nameplates are different. Just the old school ones. One thing that you will notice, this is beta footage, so it's old. I actually have health bars disabled. KUI has an option to disable friendly health bars in the CVERs, I believe, hide default health bar. This is a command. You can just use this command in game. You don't need KUI to do this. Nameplate show only names is the command. I think you just set that to 1. I don't believe KUI has profile imports and exports, unfortunately, so I can't upload my KUI profile, but it's very, very similar to how it is out of the box. I don't have too much customization on it. The next add-on I want to talk about is Opie. This is one that you haven't seen very often lately, but once I start getting into serious stuff and using consumables, you'll see it more. This is a radial wheel that appears around your cursor when you press a button, allowing you to bind multiple things on the same button. I covered this in my keybind video, but I'll go over this briefly. I usually don't put too many like combat abilities on this, but I do put like consumables or out of combat things just to save up space. So for example, I might have 5 or 6 different potions on one spot, maybe 1 for damage, 2 different mana potions, so on. So this add-on is really easy to set up as well. Once you have it installed, you just /Opie, you go to custom rings, and you can set up a new ring or pick an old one, and you just go in here and add whatever you want. You put a hotkey here. You see mine is Shift F. There's tons of other customization. I don't use a whole lot. You can rotate it to put what you want to see. The next add-on I want to talk about, I don't have footage of it right now, but it's my add-on to show the timer in dungeons. This one right here is the default timer. I have one that's a little bit cleaner. The add-on is called MythicPlusTimer, all one word. I'm sure when you refer back to this video after watching my stream or later videos, you'll be looking for that. I will leave a link for that in the description. The last thing that I want to talk about is my Elvui. So on live, I do use Elvui for a very small amount of things. I have Elvui, for example, on my target frame. You can see here. And also Elvui does enhance some of the options in like the character screen. I don't think it shows like this normally. I think the talent screen is a little bit different. I would recommend that you just figure out how you want to display stuff for yourself or use Elvui for yourself. I don't really use Elvui for much. I'm going to leave a link to my Elvui description or profile in the description. I'm going to warn you though, it doesn't import very well because I have nearly every feature disabled. It doesn't save what is disabled and what's enabled. So you're going to have to import my profile and then disable all the stuff that I disabled. And it's probably going to be more pain than it's worth. And I would recommend just adventuring down your own path or setting up your own UI with Elvui at least. So that covers everything I wanted to talk about for UI questions and setup. Thanks for watching. I hope this answered any questions that you had. If it didn't, or if I missed anything, leave a comment and I'll try and answer them on this video. And then that way, if someone else has the same question, they can see it down there. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Hopefully later on you can see me put this UI to use later on in the expansion. And happy keying.